8 years because I have to work. It's going to take me 4 years at least to get my bachelor's degree and another 4 years to go to law school at night. And you know what my father said to me? He said, the chumps, they're going to be home every day, partying, kicking back, drinking beer, smoking grass, watching TV, and the 8 years are going to come and they're going to go, and they're going to have nothing. But you, if you do what I tell you, you're going to be a lawyer. And you're going to be wearing nice suits, like I'm wearing now. And he said, you're going to walk into court, and the judge is going to call you a counselor. And I said, you know what? Sounds pretty good to me. I'm going to do it. And so I did it. Now, it was very hard. I lived in an apartment where we paid $100 a month rent, me and my roommate. $50 a piece. The bed came out of the wall. We didn't even have a kitchen. We had a hot plate. But I did it. And I decided that the way I'm going to make it is I am going to do two things. I'm going to study and I'm going to work. No parties, no drugs, no craziness. And I did it. Now guess what? I'm a guy who got thrown out of this school, and you know what I have now? I'm a lawyer. I became the chief of the Los Angeles County Public Defender's Office. I supervised 400 lawyers. I'm in the California Boxing Hall of Fame. I'm profiled in super lawyers in California. Only 2% of the lawyers are listed in that. And check this out. A couple of years ago, I told my wife, I said, you know, all my life I wanted to be a cop. I think I'm going to be a cop. She said, oh, you're too old, you can't be doing that. And so, 2 years ago, check it out, I'm a cop. What I'm telling you is you could do anything you want, but you have to want it. Is there anybody here who doesn't want it? Anybody here who just wants to be a chump and a failure? Of course not. So what I'm telling you is if you work hard and you study, you can do anything you want because we live in a great country. I was able to make a comeback. Now you don't want to make the mistakes I made because we don't have those chances anymore. Drugs. What kind of people use drugs? I'm going to tell you. Two kinds. Punks and fools. Punks and fools use drugs. Smart people don't use drugs. Don't be using drugs. You go to school. I had some mentors in my life. I want to tell you about a couple of people that helped me. I lived in an apartment building. I don't know if they still call the entrance the vestibule, but that's what they called it. And I was a young kid, and in the winter, hey, cut it out. Knock it out. In the winter, I'd be sledding outside, belly flopping on the snow. And I'd come back and I'd be in the vestibule covered with snow, and there was an old janitor, an Italian immigrant, nicest guy, worked hard. And in those days, they paid him very little, but they lived in a basement, free rent. And this old man, he put his arm around me, he said, hey buddy, Kenny, he said, you know how important education is? He says, I'm telling you, get an education. He said, you could have all the money in the world, but you could lose it. You could be healthy, and the next day, you could have a heart attack. But education, no one can ever take away from you. I still remember the words. I think about it all the time. There was another guy who owned a hot dog stand 4 blocks from here. His name was Maury. He put two of his sons through Harvard from that hot dog stand. And when I got depressed and I was driving my taxi cab, I used to pull up and I'd say, Maury, I don't think I could make it. He said, you're going to make it. I still remember those two men. Sometimes I was really broke. Remember, I didn't have money to pay for my law school tuition, so I went to an organization called Jewish Free Loan. Los Angeles. And they loaned me the money, paid it back with interest. And to this day now I'm giving them back money. I want to tell you a little bit about the guys I grew up with. Poor. Everybody was poor. I grew up with one guy, he had no father. His mother worked in a factory, minimum wage. They lived in a one-bedroom apartment. They were so poor, they took in boarders who slept in the living room. This guy is now a millionaire. He worked hard. Very successful businessman. He owns a hot dog stand called Mustard Glass Stand near Northwestern University. There's another guy, one of the most famous lawyers in Chicago. And same thing. He worked hard, he became a lawyer. Another guy lived above a candy store. His mother was on welfare. Became a famous movie producer. Anybody ever see a documentary called Hoop Dreams? That was his. He wrote it. He was up for an Oscar. All these guys came from humble beginnings, poor, and they became enormous successes. You know why? They never quit. There's no, and I wrote a book. I wrote a book called I'm from Division Street, and the people in my neighborhood, nobody would quit. No drugs, no goofiness. They weren't punks, they weren't fools, they were just hard-working guys. How many of you were into boxing, did you say? Let me tell you a little bit about it. I was a single parent. I raised my son Joey by myself. I was a street fighter, but I didn't know the fine art of pugilism. And one day I'm at the gym with my son. He's a little guy, he's 8 years old. He says, "Daddy, I want to learn how to box." Well, it so happens we're at the gym working out, and I see the managers banging the heavy bag. It takes a lot of skill to bang the heavy bag properly. So I go up to the manager and I said, "My son wants to learn how to be a boxer. Where can I take him?" He said, "You got lucky. There's an old Jewish guy a block away, up above the tattoo parlor." He said he was a champion. So that day, after work, I take my son up to the boxing gym. It was right out of Rocky. You want to saw the movie Rocky? It was right out of Rocky. And he and I became good friends, and he taught my son how to box. And then I started working out there. And I used to spar with an FBI man on my level of experience. And eventually, my friend Frankie, he died. And I was looking for another gym. And I had a friend called me up, and he said, "Hey, I got a buddy, he's a movie star. And he owns a boxing gym, and I told him about you. And he said I should bring you by." And so that night I went, and the guy who owned the gym was Mickey Rourke. You know who he is? The movie star. Played in that movie, The Wrestler.
He also played in Iron Man.
Iron Man.
He was the villain.
There you go.
Whiplash.
Yeah. So I started working out there. And now, as a result, I ended up in the Boxing Hall of Fame. I sparred with world champion boxers. I'm on the board of directors of the World Boxing Hall of Fame. I represent the California boxing referees. I love boxers. I spend all my time with boxers. And in fact, when I walk up the stairs to this gym, I would hear guys say, "There's Ken Green, he kept me out of the joint." I never charge a boxer, I would help him. Anybody here want to be a teacher? How about a lawyer? Right on. Doctor? Uh-huh. I'm going to tell you what it takes. You know the answer. You don't have to hear it from me. Focus. You know Derrick Rose for the Chicago Bulls? How do you think he got so great? Focus. That dude was practicing when his buddies are partying. And he's shooting hoops, and that's how he got so great. Same thing with Michael Jordan. Same thing with Manny Pacquiao. Same thing with all great people. You got to pay dues. You don't just say, "Oh, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be Derrick Rose." You got to pay dues. And so, what I'm telling you is this, and I want you to listen to me. I am no different than you. I'm not smart.